talk about this thing that's in my brain. It keeps me from wanting to go on, but I want some gain. Maybe a little fame.
I promise.
Yeah.
Okay,
Here we go.
So, everybody, welcome back to the We the Patriots podcast. Once again, I'm joined by Herb K of the 1964 Plan, and I'm just going to open up the floor to him. As the last time that we talked, we got, I would say, maybe halfway, maybe 40% way through the plan. I kind of want to steer clear, let you lay out what we did not really get to, and kind of wrap it up to the whole picture, and really lay out how the 1964 Plan can help us, not only as Americans, but kind of be an example to the world. And bringing better morality and better peace throughout our whole, all of our communities. So, Herb, what did we miss?
Okay, so we left it. I think we got through the nuclear family pretty well and how to rebuild nuclear family. So let's move on to prison reform. Let's go to prison reform. So
I think this is a big part. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah. So, preventing crime it was interesting. Just before I came on with you today, another guy that I did a podcast for sent me a link to an ex, formerly Twitter, I don't know what to call it,
Yeah,
post, an ex post of the new Speaker of the House talking about how mass murder, because in light of what happened in Maine, obviously. And, predictably, it's what always happens. The cries go up on the left for gun control, which immediately happened.
And then the right is going to call for the mental illness. It's every single time.
Well, what's interesting about the speaker is he actually got it right. He blamed, I couldn't believe it. He blamed no-fault divorce. I swear to God. He blamed the birth control pill and the welfare state. He did. He actually got it right. Now, he didn't have any solution. He was just blaming. But listen, that's more than halfway there from where I usually see it. So that's good. Normally on the right, all they scream about is lock them up, lock them up, lock them up. Okay, so we got through the nuclear family. Did we cover the drug war at all? Did I go into the drug war at all?
We definitely talked a lot about the drug war. I had some questions about that afterward, but I think it'd be good to, even if you had to tie it in with prison reform as well. Okay,
well, the only reason I bring it up now is because everything I'm going to talk about takes money. And so where's the money going to come from? And the money's going, and, I'm also a staunch opponent of printing up money out of thin air and, burying my children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren and whoever with debt that they have no benefit from. So let's talk. So how we're going to do it is we're basically going to kill the drug war. And by killing the drug war, then we saved all the prison incarceration costs. They'll drop about 80% across the board, and we can shut down the DEA, and we can shut down most of the FBI, and we can shut down the ATF. And a lot of these agencies only exist because of this prohibition that's a waste of time that we lost from the beginning. So that's where the money comes from. Okay, now let's move over to prison reform. So in speaking about crime prevention, which is restoring the nuclear family and all the rest of that, so there's fatherly influence and all the other things that I talked about previously.
Right, they're not going to be expedited.
Right. And did I talk about the homeless issue at all last time?
I think it's another thing that we touched on. Like I said, I think you definitely have to tie that in with prison reform, but I think it's its own issue. Yeah.
Well, prison is where we put our homeless now. So policemen
it's kind of a funneling system. Yeah.
Well, it's just a big business in a sense, because policemen, how they show that they're doing their job is how many arrests they make. And so if you're behind on your arrest quota, and I'm not making this up in any way, it's easy to go find homeless people and just roust them. You're going to find possession. You're going to find, sale. You're going to find all kinds of things just by rousting the homeless. So they do spend a lot of time in prison. And in the homeless, just to cover it, break down into two groups, the severely mentally ill and the just plain wild drunk. They're almost all alcoholics. It's unusual that they do heroin or any of the others, only because that costs more money than alcohol. The reason most of them are alcoholics is, and they would, if heroin costs what aspirin costs, which is what it should, they would do heroin instead. It's whatever they can get their hands on.
It's what they can actually come across, right?
Yeah,
and for their means, yeah.
Yeah, because they can't join the gangs and do the drug business like people do that are able-bodied, and they really don't have the means to become break-in artists or anything like that. They literally just panhandle and drink an enormous amount. And I know I'm drawing broad generalizations, but it's broadly true. So to get them off the street, what we need to do is take some of the money that we're using now and then half the homeless are severe schizophrenics. I can tell you that from firsthand experience. Not that I'm a professional
Schizophrenia is
psychiatrist.
definitely, yeah, it's very high.
And the reason that they drink so much on that part of it is because they can't stand the way that things like starts with an L. Lithium. They don't like the way lithium and all those other drugs that are used for schizophrenics make them feel. It makes them feel
okay, right.
dead. So they self-medicate with alcohol and other drugs because it just lets them live their life. But of course,
that's what them actually, yeah, it puts them in a mental state of stability. But on the reality, on what they're giving to the out front or what they're showing society is quite ugly.
And they can be very dangerous. So we have to find a way to humanely take care of that. The good news is there aren't that many of them. So if we stop pissing away money like drunken sailors. I know if you live in LA and New York, it seems like the country's overrun, but it's not really true. There's about, at any given night, 600,000 homeless in the United States on the streets, give or take.
Okay.
That number is a educated guess by a lot of experts. It might be 1 million, it might be but there's just not that many compared with 340 million people. This is a problem.
Yeah, you're talking about less than 1%. Yeah.
Right. We should be able to deal with this. And the best way to deal, about 0.2%. The best way to deal with this would be to take the people that are mentally ill, take some of the money that we're blowing on the drug war that we've lost from the beginning, and then build really good sanitariums. I like the word sanitarium better than institution. Really nice places on really nice property with professional staff. And here's where I'm a little different, way different than the psychiatric community. Instead of trying to get them, force them inside and make them take the drugs that we want them to take, give them the option of taking the drugs that we want them to take, or let them have a quiet private room and drink themselves stupid. I'm not saying this. We have to get past the point in this culture where we think everybody's fixable, or that we think that the goal of everybody is longevity. So people in that position.
I do want to interject there. Like there is definitely something to be said. Like they have to want to change. If they don't, if they don't want to change, like if you, just use you as an example, if you took your prison sentence and you did it and totally took it on the chin and you didn't really want to do anything good for the world, you wanted to hate on everybody who put you in that situation. Look, would you be anywhere close to where we are right now, screen to screen? Like
I would be laundering money for the cartels.
You would be right back into the same hole. Yeah.
I would be making a phenomenal amount of money and probably never gotten caught. But there's something about morality that I think that God's watching whether or not the whole world is. So I just wouldn't, I can honestly say I accidentally committed the crime I committed going in. Once I had plenty of chances to stop. This is not in any way me trying to weasel. But if I thought I was hopeless, then my only choice would really be to go to work for the cartels, only because I have a sophisticated knowledge of money and finance, and that would be something.
And the upside, the upside would be real, and quite expedient.
I knew cartel truck drivers that made $1 million a year. I mean, there's an enormous amount of money in drugs if that's what you want to do. But I don't want to do it, so let's not go there. But you're right. You have to want to get better. I mean, you have to want to change. So most of these people that I'm talking about in this particular half of the homeless population are so horribly damaged that all they're trying to do is get through the day with as little pain. Yep. Right. And let's get them a nice, safe place where they don't shit on the sidewalks and they don't attack passersby, and there are professional staff to take care of them. And if they get sick, they're taken care of. And if they get hurt or they overdose or whatever it might be, but they're quietly away from the rest of society. We segregate them. We're not going to fix them. Stop trying to give them, if they want psych drugs, if they want to get better, if they want to try to operate, that's one thing.
That's one thing.
But on the other hand, they don't. I mean, I know too many firsthand. Yes, there's the exception, the 1 out of 1 million, but the rest don't. They just
now. So are you in support of with the sanitarium giving them, not necessarily access, but a place where they can possibly do a drug like a heroin or a, even a fentanyl, like safely?
Anything they want, want, free of charge, administered safely, dosed safely. Addicts know what drug they're taking. The idea that they're taking fentanyl and don't know that they're taking it is absurd. They take it because it has more bang for the buck. That's what, I mean, it's just, I've never taken it, but I understand it's unbelievable.
Correct.
And if you, to understand why people become addicted to heroin and fentanyl, things like that, have you ever had, I don't know, did you ever suffer from migraine headaches or any kind of chronic pain in your life?
Yeah, I actually did. Yep.
Okay, so I used to until I was about 50. Then somehow I outgrew them. But some years ago, when I was in my 40s and I was married, I had a terrible migraine headache. It was the worst I had ever had, and my head was exploding. I just wanted to whack it into the wall. You know exactly what I'm talking about. I
Yep,
know.
absolutely.
And so I asked my then wife to take me to the emergency room. Now, and I had like never done that, but that's how bad this was. I thought I was going to die. It was just horrible. And she called my best friend, who was my doctor at the time, and he was on vacation in Colorado. And so he just called over to Tucson Medical Center. I lived in Tucson at the time, and told them to get ready, that I would be coming. And he told my wife just to take me and they would be ready. And it was all true. So we got there to the emergency room, and they took me inside, and, and I told them what was going on. I was in so much pain, I could barely talk. And after trying a couple other things, they finally gave me a shot of Dilaudid. Okay, that's where I'm going with this story. Now, Dilaudid is synthetic heroin. That's all it is. So
Got it.
It's used with terminally ill patients primarily, or people whose pain on a scale of 1 to 10 is 15. And let me tell you, that was 20 years ago, and I remember it like it was yesterday. That's how good it was. And as the nurse, I remember she asked me, what arm do I want it in? And I said left. And I remember that as she pressed the plunger down with the Dilaudid, I could feel this feeling of warmth and well-being wash over my body instantly. And the headache just went poof, like it was never there. And I felt euphoric. And I felt literally the best I have or ever have since felt in my life. And as we walked out of the hospital, I turned to Terry, my wife, and I said, well, she said to me, you look great. And I said, yeah, I'll never do that again. And she said, what do you mean? I said, oh, honey, I liked it.
You could see where it could come from, right?
Yeah. Oh, no, I could see right away. But see, I'm not an addictive person, and I could recognize right away that this is trouble waiting to happen, as most people could. That I'm the norm. Most of us, 9 out of 10 people, are not addictive. But to that one person, I've talked to heroin addicts about that since, when I was in prison, because I was in prison after that happened. And they tell me that's what it's like with heroin, but you're always chasing that high. And after the first one, there's never any.
After the first one, you're never going to get there. Yeah, it's the same as smoking a cigarette. You're never going to get that buzz again. Yeah.
But they get it. They love it, and I can see why they love it. I can see why there were opium dens. I get it. The other reason I would never do it is all opiates are constipating, and I just can't stand that feeling. I mean, I've never understood how people. The terrible.
Yeah, I didn't know that they all were, but it kind of makes sense though. But it's kind of affecting your overall motor systems, correct?
It's no good for you.
Not talking to each other very well.
I don't know if I told you this, but I have a titanium left shoulder, and when I had
you told me you had to get surgery last time. Yep.
Yeah, when I had it replaced, they gave me Vicodin, but I threw it away. Because I knew it was just going to constipate me and make me nauseous. But some people love it. I don't get it, but all right, whatever floats your boat. The whole point is, back to the homeless. Let's give them a nice place to be, away from everybody else. Protect them, protect everybody else, and stop trying to save them. Just palliative care. If they want to be helped, fine, but mostly palliative care. Now, for the other half of the homeless, that they're not any more we're all a little mentally ill. I don't want to say that they're normal or not. We all have our crazy shit. Let's be honest. But I'm talking about the half that are generally okay. They're just completely out of control addicts. We have
specifically to addicts.
Yeah, we have to, mostly drunks, but addicts. Well, they're all addicts. Let's just call them addicts across the board. This is the saddest group of addicts possible, to end up living on the street, literally. First of all, there's plenty of resources, plenty of private and government resources in every city in the country for someone to get a bed and a safe place to sleep at any night in any city. The reason that they don't go to these shelters, the reason they don't go to the Salvation Army, the reason they don't go to the church shelters and the soup kitchens and things, is they don't want the rules. They don't want to be told no drugs. Right.
They don't want to be told by someone above them. That was kind of going to be my next question. So what about for those homeless that just don't want to be a part of that sanitarium lifestyle? They just don't want to be there.
We go to the outskirts of the city or the town, whichever it is. We go to an industrial area where we're not going to be putting what I'm about to suggest next to anybody's home. We're not going to screw up anybody's property values. We find just a big piece of land, and on that land, which we buy adequate for the size of the homeless population in our city. And on that land, we put tiny houses. We plummet, we put in streets, we put in tiny houses, which are basically, I know you know what they are, but for the viewers, they're studio apartments that are set up as individual houses. They're just a big room, basically, that's everything, and it has a bed and everything else, and sometimes a couch or however you want to do it, and a bathroom and a kitchen, and it's all in one. It's just a studio. It's a tiny house is a tiny house if it's under 500 square feet. So it's some little thing under 500 square feet. We give each of them, we have a homeless, let's call it crew or service, that picks up a homeless guy that's drunk on the street, drives them out to this community. They're given, it's not a prison. They can leave if they want to, but they're not going to leave, because here's going to be the deal. They're going to get their own private little house, which they'll get the keys to. They can lock the door and have all the privacy they want. They'll get, by the way, just before we get any further, because I know to some people, they're going to start thinking of how filthy this is going to be. When I was in prison, I discovered the homeless are very clean. They're dirty because on the street, there's no option. But when they have the chance to clean things up, they clean things up. You'd be shocked how clean prisons are inside. You would really be shocked. They're ugly and they're drab, but they're clean. And a lot of that is homeless men scrubbing them down constantly. They are not generically dirty. They're just not. And so, you give them cleaning supplies and everything they need. They go and they have their little house, and they have a little kitchenette, and they have their bathroom and their nice, comfortable bed with a nice mattress and pillows and everything that they need. Now, here's why it's not a prison. Number one, there will be a convenience store on the property where they can obtain either their alcohol or drug of choice, plus the administrator to administer it. Okay, free of charge. They can walk in, pick up a nice dose of heroin, Mexican black tar, China white, whatever turns them on. Bet you didn't know I knew all that shit. I know all about the kinds of heroin.
Oh, you know more than me.
Well,
for sure.
Most of what I saw in prison was Mexican black tar, but that's because I was in prison in Arizona, which is not white. It's just exactly what the name says it sounds like. But anyway, they get whatever they want, and addicts have their preferences of what they want and what's available. Let them get whatever they want. Nice, clean, disposable needles if they're mainlining, or a nice pipe if they're smoking. However they want to do it. Meth if they want it. Anything. But whatever they want to do, have it on hand, free of charge. Most of them don't do meth because it wakes them up. They don't want to be woken up. They want to go to sleep. So most of them are doing some version of either alcohol or heroin or something like it, or fentanyl. So give it to them for nothing. Give it to them in measured doses so that they don't get sick, but they get the effect that they're looking for. And then also on the property, have in the same convenience store, food. Whatever ramens, popcorn for their microwave, any frozen meals, anything they need to go home, have their food. Some of them will socialize. Some of them will lock themselves in their house. They're like all people. They're all different. But whatever their commonality is, they have backgrounds that would make your hair fall out. I've heard some of these stories. They're raised and they turn out this way, not by some accident. Okay. They grow up in abusive environments that are indescribably horrible. They are permanently damaged. What we need to do is let them get through their lives, as long as that might be, as comfortably as possible and as away from the general public as possible, so that everybody wins. So they can live there the rest of their lives. There will be medical staff on, if there's the inevitable, let's not say if, for the inevitable overdose, there will be medical staff there with the proper drugs and equipment to treat them. There will be rehab available for the rare ones that want it. There will be social workers and rehab available to them at all times. Psychologists we can have available, social workers if they want to talk it out. But if they want to, after they want to, and they love to talk it out, they'll love to do that. We'll have all kinds of sessions for them. But then they just want to go home and do their drugs. And you know what? Let them go home and do their drugs. Let them go home and do their drugs. If they're not hurting anybody, and they're not breaking into your house, and they're not mugging you on the street, this is not a solution. It's just the trade-off here is accepting that they're not going to get better, is to get rid of the idea that we can fix the unfixable. That's the trade-off here. But in return for that, everybody else is safer and better off. The cities go back to being beautiful again. There's no more human excrement on the sidewalk. And we all live happily ever after. Now,
obviously, you're going to have to police these areas pretty strongly and make sure that, you're going to have a certain delinquent percentage, right? Like they'll go
Not
along with
really.
it to a certain degree, but I mean, once you get
They,
on some of these
they don't steal because they
substances, though,
enjoy
it's
stealing.
possible.
They don't steal because they enjoy stealing. They steal and rob
Right, right. Most of them.
support their habits. I'm telling you, it's not that the place can't have rules. The rules are no fighting and no pooping outside your house and keep it clean. I mean, pretty simple, right? And they will. And by the way, they can leave if they want to go. Goodbye. But they'll get picked up again if they end up back. Most of them do. None of them live on the street because they like it. They live on the street because they prefer it to the rules.
Sure.
I once met a guy that had a terrible, terrible drug problem who was in prison for like his, I don't know, he was in for DUI. I think it was his third one. In Arizona, they don't fuck around. By the time you get to your third one, you're going to prison. And the second one, you go to prison. This was not his first time down. This time it was longer. And this guy was a lawyer and handsome and erudite and all those. I was shocked by it. So one day I said to him, I said, he flushed his family down the toilet. He flushed his relationship with his children down, all over drugs. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's like this. It's like, you're putting a loaded gun into your mouth, but you love the taste of the metal more than you love anything else in your life. And that's really the best explanation I ever heard of it. And they know what they're doing. They're aware of what happens. They're not victims. They're making a choice. And their choice is they're so self-loathing that, addiction is the unprescribed medication of self-loathing. If you really want to get right down to it. And they're self-loathing because they've experienced a lifetime of horror. Like, if you think you've got a bad story, believe me, not like the stories I've heard in prison. I mean, just mind-boggling. All right. So anyway, that's the homeless. Now let's talk about prison reform. If we legalize drugs, the prisons are going to empty out. All the possession and sale people, I would basically pardon immediately and expunge their records. They should have never had records to begin with. And remember that every criminal conviction is a life sentence. Whether you go to prison for a year or 100 years, you're going to have to live with that mantle the rest of your life. And it's a very hard thing to come back from. Believe me, I know firsthand. And I have a lot of talent that these people just aren't going to have. And so, just being honest, you have to look at people as they really are, not as they're all going to be, the exception to the rule, because they're not. So the other thing is that most of these kids, when they come down, because they were raised fatherless, and the ones that are left now, the ones that are still going to prison, regardless of drugs being legal or not, they really, they're a thief, they stole a car, they broke whatever it might be. They're mostly looking for a father figure, which they usually find from gangs, usually within their race. And they're mostly followers. They would do anything they're told and the gangsters, the really hardcore guys, the guys that are real evil on 2 feet. They're exceptionally sociopathic and even psychopathic, so they don't care anything for these young men. And it's a road to nowhere. So here's what I suggest we do. So here's how I would structure prison reform. Step one: when you first go to prison, they take you to a segregation yard. What a segregation yard is, where they bring everybody to determine your level of how dangerous you are and the nature of your crime and how many years you've gone down and what your psychological issues are and so on and so forth. And then they send you to an appropriate prison yard based upon those guidelines. So what happens now is the guys, the death row guys and the cold-blooded killers go to what are called 4 and 5 yards, where they're never going to be with anybody but cold-blooded killers. And then the unbelievably violent and incorrigible that have like 10-year plus sentences go to the 3 yards, and then everybody else goes to 2, and then a few at the very end might go to 1. Okay, so that's basically how it works: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, and different states might call it different things, but I'm using Arizona as a guideline, but they all copy each other. So I've talked
it's pretty much the same thing. And right now you're talking about levels of prison yards. Yeah.
Right, which is
pretty common.
It's based on level of risk. So what we have to do is get the gangsters out of the way to have, for the rest of these kids, the vast majority of them, to have a shot. And to do that, the easiest way to do that is with Prison Inc. So in prison, all of the races are segregated by race voluntarily. They do it themselves. It's not like the institution does it. And all of them are led, all of the different races are led by gangsters within their race. So, for example, among the white people, it's the Aryan Brotherhood and the skinheads.
Right.
That are so we need to separate. So I'm going to use my own race as an example because it's just the easiest one to use. But this is true of blacks, Chicanos, Paisas, Chiefs, which are the Native Americans. These are, by the way, names they call themselves, not me. I mean, I'm just telling you the way it is. The Native Americans call themselves Chiefs. So let's not get into whether that's a pejorative microaggression or some bullshit like that. So I know.
Whatever. We can't get over the fact that we have team names for our sports and then we still have the Braves doing the chop. So you know what I mean? I can't
all I know
I can't understand
as far as I know, and I looked, no Native American groups were bitching about the Washington Redskins or the Cleveland Indians. No,
not
nobody.
One of them.
This is just identity addicts. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. So anyway, so here we are. I could wax
bonus
on
show,
for that.
Herb. Bonus show, Herb.
Bonus show. The fucking up of canon, but we'll talk about that another day. Okay, so really, it just makes me sick. You know,
I'm with you there.
Look, I'm all about diversity. I think it's great, but there are thousands and thousands of stories to tell that you could write where characters of color you're either irrelevant, like the role of a detective on a police force in a major U.S. city could be any color.
Absolutely.
Or a major city in the world. You know, I've watched plenty of British crime shows where you might get a Pakistani Britain woman but it makes perfect sense within the role. They didn't co-opt. It's not a racial co-opt. It makes sense. So I watch those shows and they go, oh, that was a good show. You know, I mean, no one cares. It's when you co-opt roles that are, and it's so absurd, and you're not doing it for any other reason than to co-opt the role, and you're throwing. A good example of that is the show Bridgerton on Netflix, and Queen Charlotte. Yep. Okay, there were no black people that were in the upper classes of British society. Period. Britain was slavery and the slave trade was central to their economy until 1838. So the idea that Queen Charlotte was somehow black by descent and married King George III, who is impossibly good looking, like in that show, is bullshit. Okay, the same way that suddenly elves in the J.R. Tolkien trilogies have turned into black and Asian. Look, J.R. Tolkien was an Englishman. He was an Englishman who based his trilogy on Nordic Viking mythology.
Correct.
It makes no sense. Here's what I would take Wakanda. This is a good example from the Black Panther, and write more for that universe where it makes sense to have characters of color. It just makes it. And what people don't understand about fantasy shows and certain things is they have enormous followings. And when you spit all over the canon of the show, you just destroy it. Because this is not what they signed on to.
And the people who were your hardest believers are now not going to back up your show whatsoever. Yeah.
It makes no sense. It just makes no sense. Okay.
Let's continue on prison reform though, because I think it's really pertinent.
Yeah. Okay, so ganging is the easiest way to separate these people out. So I propose that when a criminal is first brought to prison, it might be his fourth stay, but when he's brought in and he goes to the segregation yard
initially,
he or she is given a choice. Okay, and that choice is simple. The state is going to remove all of your gang ink, okay, free of charge. But if you want to keep it, that's fine. But you're going to a 4-yard. Okay, you're
automatically at a higher security.
Automatically going to a high security yard. Now, I know a lot of these gangsters firsthand. They would rather cut off their arms than take off their ink. And there's among the white guys, there's all kinds of gang ink, like the number 88. Okay, 8 is the eighth letter of the alphabet. That's Heil Hitler. 18 is Adolf Hitler. The first letter of the alphabet, the 8th. There's all kinds of things.
Got it.
Okay, there. CWB, crazy white boy, Nazi lightning bolts tattooed, swastikas, all that shit. Now the black gangs have their stuff, and the Latino gangs have their stuff. They all have their gang ink that clearly denotes whether the gangs are. Their choice is take it off or go to the 4-yard. they'll pick the 4-yard. 999 times out of 1,000, they'll view that as a rite of passage and how tough they are. They'll believe me, that's how their minds work. They'll never.
Right.
These are the hardcore criminals. These are the guys that are not going to be reformed. These are the racists. These are the bad guys.
And the followers, the ones that you have a chance at, are going to not automatically, but a lot of them are going to choose to whitewash, and then they might have a chance at rehabilitation.
There's a whole hierarchy. When a young guy goes into prison, the first thing that happens is the gang leader grabs him, they turn him into a torpedo. A torpedo is the guy that beats up anybody that owes the main guy money. And it just starts that way. And you have to do it, and there's no choice, and blah, blah, blah. And, I got away with a lot of the things I got away with because of my age. I used to tell them when they'd come to me with their bullshit, I'd tell them, go fuck yourself. And I would get away with it, but a younger guy could never get away with it. Okay.
Yeah, you're not a 21-year-old athletic guy coming in on a robbery charge.
I'll give you a good example. Whenever there's a riot on the yard, and a riot can be two guys fighting, whatever they want to call a riot.
Okay.
All of the inmates pour out of the buildings onto the open area, the field, whatever the prison has, the open area, and they segregate into their racial gangs, and that's how the fights start. That's how the big.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And you're required. That I was told as soon as I came in, you have to go out with your race, and I told them from the beginning, go fuck yourself. I won't. I won't. I said, look, if you guys are going to beat me up over it, let's just have it out right now. Because I am not going to go out and get involved in a fight that's not mine. Go fuck yourself. But because I was my age,
I was going to say, because of the age that you went in, you probably had quite a big advantage there over.
But I was the only guy.
Age, yeah.
Listen, I got a lot of dirty looks, and I got a lot of anti-Semitic bullshit from the Aryan brothers and shit. But you know what? Go fuck themselves. I don't care. They can do whatever they want. I would just sit. Everyone would be out there getting into a fight, and I would be quietly in my little space, writing and reading and waiting for it to be over. Because anyway. So let's get back to prison reform. So now we segregate those bad guys out. Now we have the leftover. Now these kids have grown up without a father and without any idea how to run their lives. On top of that, they're sheep. Okay, so
99 times out of 100. Yeah.
Like most human beings are sheep, frankly. I don't mean that in a bad way, that most people just would rather be.
Just by the law of averages. It doesn't make any sense to have even close to half being leader capable. It doesn't make any sense.
It's not even 10%. Okay, so what we do with these kids is we put them through basic training without the weapons. So we get retired DIs, retired drill instructors, and company commanders in the Navy, whatever they call them, service to service. And we get them, and we actually run basic training. And I went through 13 weeks. That seemed about right to me, but whatever, 12 weeks, 8 weeks, 13 weeks. We set up a basic training curriculum that every one of these inmates goes through. And
as soon as you initially get in. Yeah.
As soon as you are sent to your permanent yard. And in that basic training, you learn all the things that you learn in real basic training. And speaking as a veteran, I can tell you that basic training affects you in ways that will last a lifetime. Like, for example, I still hospital corner my bed. I just do it out of habit. I still fold my socks the way I learned to fold them in the military, and my underwear, and my T-shirts, and my shirts. My kids are always struck with how neat I fold things. Well, it's easy once you become just accustomed to it. It's not, you do it because you have more space, right? If you do it the right way, everything's not just smashed together and full of wrinkles.
Right.
So those kind of little things, plus things like self-discipline and learning that to be a good order giver, you have to be a good order taker. And all these lessons that you would have learned from your father, basic training instills in a very crash way. And if they flunk out, if they become surly and refuse to follow orders, which many of them will, the punishment is you start over. You just take that kid.
Start over. You don't send them up to a higher yard. Okay.
No, no. You want it maybe after the third time or something when it gets ridiculous and they're incorrigible. Yeah. I'm sure there has to be a limit, but you put them through it a few times, because that's what the military does, frankly, by the way. That's what the military does with people that fight in the beginning. And usually it only takes one time, because basic training is no fun. But what's great about basic training is that all the services do it the same way. They spend the first 50% of it breaking you down so that you learn to, in a combat situation, regardless of whether it's on land, sea, or air, is no time for a group discussion of individual needs, wants, and victimhoods. Okay. You have to, even if the commander is not the best commander, he's still better than everybody else doing bullshit. So you have to learn how to just take the order, which is a very important life lesson because it teaches you to respect position, regardless of what you think. And that's such an important life lesson. So, and then what happens is on the second half of basic training, they start to build you up again so that by the time you graduate, you feel like you really accomplished something. And when you go out there and you do your parade and your family's there and you're all marching in unison and you're doing all the gun things.
You're actually puffing your chest and you're not head in your hands. Yeah.
I propose we do the same thing with basic training in prison. We invite their families, such as they are, to come to the prison. We put on a nice show, everything but the weapons. Okay. They graduate, they get certificates. And that brings me to the second part of how to use prison to rehabilitate and not just punish. The punishment in prison is the separation from your family, friends, and loved ones. That's the punishment. The prison itself, when you've lived on the street like most of these guys have, and I mean literally on the street, yeah, it doesn't bother them. I mean, to me, it was unbelievably uncomfortable, but to them, it wasn't. And I saw that plenty. I saw guys that could sleep on hard pavement and be perfectly fine with it. They did it. You know, it's just the difference. If you come from the gutter, one step up is great, and that's what a lot of these guys. They're doing life on the installment plan. They view prison as their retirement plan. This is how they're going to spend their life in and out of prison because they get free medical and free dental and free food and free that, and they understand it. They know where they need to be. These are not, in a lot of cases, intellectual thinkers, right? You know, these you need to be here, you need to be here, you need to be here. So that brings me to the next part, which is stop punishing everybody for the act of one. Okay, so the way it works now in prison is if two knuckleheads on a prison yard get into a fight, the whole prison gets locked down and everybody gets strip searched to see if they have scrapes or marks on their upper or body or hands. Now, this is stupid because the closed circuit cameras know exactly who started the fight, and they already have that. And they already know that. They do this just to drive home to everybody in the yard what
humiliate you guys and put you in your place.
Right.
Yep.
I have lost track of how many times I've had to strip down and stand in front of my bunk. They have women doing it too. So you're down to your skivvies, which is embarrassing enough. Okay, coming by this, and it's so stupid. You know, that they look at you, you know, you got to go this, and this, and you got to lift your arms up, and then you got to, you know, show them this and show them, you know, and then you can on your teeth and all that bullshit. No reason. And when you punish everybody for the actions of two people, you take away all incentive for anybody to do anything. What's the point?
To actually do anything correct, yeah.
Right, like why try hard? So I propose to do what they do in Scandinavia and what they do in Germany and what they do in Italy, and they do it successfully, which is the longer you behave, the more privileges you earn. Up to and include. I love that. So let's say
tiered system. Yep.
So guy comes in, he's going to do a 5-year term for, I don't know, robbing a convenience store. All right, so he's in prison. This is his first time. He's a young, stupid kid. He's 18, 19 years old. He's in prison. We've gotten all the bad eggs away from him. Now we've got him. We've put him through basic training. Great. Now he comes out. He's facing 5 years. Now he's got a girlfriend back home. He misses her. He's jealous as shit. Here's what you do. The longer he begins to earn privileges, starting with better food. There should be 2 chow halls. The regular chow hall.
Yeah.
Yeah, one that's like a cafeteria where you can pick what you want and all that kind of good shit. And one that's just what it is now, which
this is what we got.
Go to a window. Yep. You know, and believe me, thank God I was Jewish. I went on the kosher food plan.
Oh, that is lucky.
That's how I got out of eating most of that shit. I got kosher food, which was prepackaged and done by a separate kitchen under rabbinical supervision and brought to the prison. So my food was 1,000% better. But what's interesting is because none of the Gentiles who ran the prison understood kosher, I got a lot of things that were just ridiculous, like whole onions. Like, what am I going to do? Eat that? Like, and I used to get like a half a head of cabbage. Like, yeah. And I don't have none of us have knives. What am I going to do with a half a head of cabbage? I'll tell you what I did with all of it. I made a deal with the Paisas, and I would sell them, which meant trade them, all of my unusable huge, and I got them every day. They would give me a half a head of cabbage and a whole onion every day. And I would trade it, sell it to the Paisas, and then in return, they would include me on their prison on their prison stuff they used to make. And you'd be shocked what kind of shit these guys can make out of nothing. I mean, the greatest burritos outside of Mexico. It was awesome. But with fresh vegetables, anyway, That's how prison works. You find little ways to make things happen. But in the meantime, I ate much better than most of the inmates by the time so many guys would see me eat this, everyone kept trying to convert to Judaism. It was the funniest thing. It's true story. It's true story. I'd have black guys and things come over to my house and ask me about the questions they're going to ask when they ask if they're Jewish, so they could get kosher meals. And I'd tell them. I mean, I'd help them out as much as I could.
Yeah.
They never got it.
I was going to say there's no way that you could get that through memory unless you lived through that to some degree. But
no, but they really wanted at that point anti-Semitism.
I'm sure they really appreciated it too.
Well, the food was a lot better, and besides, a lot of them have never met a real Jew in their real lives. A lot of these guys, including some, I met a lot of Aryan brothers that when they met me went, "Oh my God, I never knew Jews were like you." I said, "Well, I'm nothing special, man. I'm just like everybody else." Anyway,
just born with a different belief system. It's crazy.
If you're never exposed to something, you don't know how it really is. That's really why this is such a good plan, because I've been to prison. I'm not a sociologist. I've seen firsthand what goes on and what needs to be done. Anyway. So
not taking a guess. Yeah.
So they can earn privileges. It starts with better food, maybe better clothes, maybe better jobs, maybe
or better connection with the outside world, more ability to make phone calls private.
Well, more visitation.
You're right.
Up to conjugal visits for the guys that are in for a long time. If they earn high enough, they can get conjugal visits, which believe me, they'll appreciate.
Absolutely. How could you not? How could you not?
They'll just love it. And then for the really good guys, and there won't be many of these guys, but for the guys that are just great, they can earn weekend furloughs where they can go stay with their family and report back to prison on Monday. Now, that's not everybody, but by setting up that there's even a possibility.
Yeah, but you give that a value system. How many more, that's not an option. If you had, not that it's not an option, there's corrupt prisons. We both know that, but
they're all corrupt, really. But
but you understand what I'm saying with that. But having that tiered system would actually incentivize good behavior. It would incentivize someone to maybe rehabilitate themselves if they've been struggling with something. And it just sets you up for a more successful community life, even though it's a prison, rather than being the hellhole.
Whenever anybody has a new idea like this, what I'm proposing, there are 3 questions that need to be asked always. Okay. By the way, these 3 questions are not my 3 questions. I am borrowing them from Thomas Sowell. And Thomas Sowell is, I think, the greatest living economist.
I think we touched on it last time. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So it's as compared to what? Where's your data? And how much is it going to cost? Okay. So when I say let's start a prison system that's built on incentive instead of punishment, as compared to what? Answer: Scandinavian and European prisons, and it works. They have a much, much lower recidivism rate than we do. Much. It's not even close.
Correct me if I'm wrong, too. They have much less violence on the yards.
Much less violence on the yards. Much less. A lot. And, the safest country in the world right now that's developed is Portugal, and they have legal drugs, just saying. So, they're the only country that's really done it even close to the right way. And they have the safest city in the world statistically right now is Lisbon, Portugal, which I've been to. And I have to tell you, it's a gorgeous place. If you ever have the chance to go there, Portugal's a wonderful country. But anyway, and drugs are legal. If you want to do heroin, do heroin. Knock yourself out. Now, all right, so back to so we incentivize this. Then, because, of course, the second question is, where's your data? There's a mountain of data on this and studies that have been done on these European prison systems. We have such an institutionalized, stupid system. It's just bureaucratic inertia and public ignorance. If we knew what the data was, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing now. We'd already be doing what I'm suggesting. And then
I think everybody knows that we have a bad system, and they just don't want to maybe dive deep enough to find a solution.
Well, the people on the right have always gone to lock them up, lock them up, lock them up. And they're all about punishment. But, look, anyone who's raised children knows you can't punish anybody out of anything. Stop that. It's just that you catch a lot more flies with honey than flypaper. That should be common knowledge, you would think. But there you go. And if you get the bad eggs out, see, what makes my plan different than just rehab is we're going to get all the scum out and segregate them so they don't drag the rest of these kids down into the dark pit of despair that these people live in, that the other ones do.
Correct.
And then we take them and we mold them. And there's nothing wrong with requiring church on Sundays in prison, or synagogue on Saturdays, or mosque on Saturdays, whatever the religion is, as required, that you even have to sit. you'll get something out of it. There's nothing wrong.
Absolutely.
This country, whatever you are, Catholic, Protestant, I saw them all, man. The Jewish guys that came on campus were, from a Jewish point of view, they were the funny ones. They were the Lubavitcher Hasidim, which are the way off the deep enders. But I enjoyed talking to them. You know, I mean, we would have long philosophical discussions, and you know, religion isn't going to hurt anybody. It can only help in the modern context. This is not I don't want to hear about the Inquisition. That was in the 1400s. Let's move on. Okay, well, you know, in the present context, religion is a positive. Western religion is a positive. Let's face it, we live in the West in a Christian world, and Christianity is responsible for the West being the way it is. The foundation of the entire Western value system is Christianity. And I say that
I would say Judeo-Christian, at least.
Yeah,
you could caveat it that way, but
well, look, the truth is,
I understand exactly what you're saying. Yes,
Judaism gave birth to Christianity, but Christianity,
that's all I wanted to.
Right, but Christianity is what's responsible for the West being the way it is. It's why our science 100%. Developed the way it was. Because
100%. You're not going to go and say it was because of Judaism.
It has much less communal. It's a much more individualistic religion, and what you can do for yourself and earning redemption yourself than other religions. And what that does is it fosters creativity. It's why the great art came from the West. It's why the great music. You know, why is there no African Mozart? And there isn't. Sorry, there just isn't. You want to rewrite history and pretend there is? But it's simply because of Christianity. Okay, there were kids in Africa as talented potentially as Mozart, but if you're never exposed to it, you're never going to learn it. You're going to never know what you're capable of. It has nothing to do with genetics. It's culture, and what underlies Western culture is Christianity. And I say that as a Jew. I wouldn't be saying, and my fellow Jews, I know the Jews have been persecuted by Christians over the years. I get it, but you know. Here's what Jews know that other persecuted minorities need to figure out. You got to let it go at some point. You need to remember it, but you can't let it obsess you. Like, for example,
I think that's a big point. Yeah, you can't let it consume you. Yeah.
Israel's second closest ally after the United States is Germany. Okay, the German chancellor in this latest attack, Olaf, I can't think of his last name, Olaf Scholz. I think it's Olaf Scholz. He immediately came out and condemned Hamas and came down on Israel's side immediately. And that shows you now. Part of that is guilt, and part of that is understanding their legacy and everything else.
Right.
But Israel doesn't make a federal case out of it. Germany doesn't. They've moved on. Okay. Every Jew doesn't think every German's a Nazi. Every Nazi doesn't think every Jew is out to get every German anymore. You know, people grow, they mature, cultures mature, and so. We have to accept that Christianity, the Christian culture, is the superior culture that exists. There might be some utopian thing in somebody's mind, but until that manifests itself, clearly Christian culture is superior to every other culture. And I don't know why we seem so ashamed to say it out loud. I don't know.
That's part of it. There's a shame that's that's put onto it, and I think it's because of the successes. Which is, I think that kind of in of itself, that points to it as well. Okay, well, but it's been successful, right? But other people would look at it and they feel bad that somebody else didn't have the opportunity, or I think a lot of it comes too from not engaging in it. And if you never engage in it and you don't know it's a good thing, how could you ever talk in a good light? I think that's a big problem now too.
If you want to live like that, become a Christian and live within a Christian culture. If you don't, then don't. It's your choice. I mean, I'm a Jew that lives in a Christian culture. I have no issue with it. I understand I live in a predominantly Christian country. Yes, the Constitution guarantees that there's no state religion. Thank God. That's why Jews love it here. We love the United States. I'm an American Jew, not a Jewish American. I'm more proud of my American heritage than anything else. I'm proud of my Jewish heritage, but when push comes to shove, I'm an American first and foremost. But at the same time, I'm not blind, deaf, and dumb. I know where I live. I know who surrounds me. I know, I don't know why we pretend that things by pretending things aren't as they are, by thinking we can will them to be something else. That's very naive. You've got to let reality drive policy, not let policy drive reality, because you can't drive reality. It is what it is. So we're in prison. Okay, we've got these guys. They're in a merit system. Now, the last part of prison reform is that they all have to work. When you're in prison, you have to have a job, and the jobs are provided by outside companies. Now, by the way, that's done now, but here's the way it works now. You go to work in, let me use a real one. In Kingman, there was a company that assembled wheelchairs. They brought in the wheels and they assembled wheelchairs. And the job paid, I want to say $12.50 an hour, but the prisoner got 50 cents. Everything else went to the state confiscated. That's wrong. Okay. So what needs to happen is that why $12.50? That's the minimum wage in Arizona, by the way. It was good for the company because if they hired people on the outside, they'd be paying $17, $18, $20, $25
to do the
an
same
hour
job. Yep.
to do the same job. So a win-win is they come to the prison, they can pay minimum wage, but the prisoner gets all of it. All of it.
Yeah, then there shouldn't be a minimum wage if he's not receiving it. Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But then out of that, expenses are taken because this is how you teach budgeting. So instead of
I like it.
Instead of giving them 50 cents and keeping the other $12 to offset the cost of their incarceration, give them the $12.50, then take 30% of it, which is their rent for their space they're taking up in the state prison, so that they understand, A, that they're costing money. This is not, no one's making money. That's a myth in prison. They all think that everyone's making money. But, I got tired of trying to explain it to them. And then second, at a certain point, it's like talking to a wall. You have to just, give it up.
You give it up.
You give it up. Yeah. And then out of that also should come restitution. Out of the entire $12.50 should come in Arizona law, they mandate 10% of your gross income has to go to restitution. So if these guys have an ex-wife, a baby mama, multiple baby mamas, they're going to get some real money. But with what's left over, okay, maybe a little bit for spending money on the prison, like the 50 cents a day for just so they can buy their cigarettes and bullshit like that. Sure. Okay, or hour, whatever it is, I forget now. It's an hour. Everything else gets put into an interest-bearing account for them, and when they get out, they get a debit card with the money on it. So instead of getting out with nothing, they get out with $3,000, $5,000, $10,000. Now, some of them will go out and blow it on stupidity.
It'll be gone in a day. Yep.
They won't blow it on drugs because drugs will be legal. So that's not going to be the issue. They're not going to go out and do what they do today, which is go have a wild party on heroin and meth and cocaine and God knows what else.
As much alcohol and yeah.
A lot of them are going to just blow it. Okay, that's realistic. But look, it didn't cost the taxpayers anything, but a significant portion of these young men and women, both, having gone through the basic training, having gone through a merit system, having earned their way up the ladder and gained privileges, having worked at a job productively, having understood what budgeting is and learned about, they're paying their restitution and their child support and the things that they have to pay, they have a much better chance to actually mainstream back into society. And then finally, and this is, I'm going to have to add this. I didn't write it into the white paper. There needs to be a second chance program where, by the way, in fact, let me talk about the second chance program that is in there that has to do with the poverty prevention program, which goes hand in hand with prison. So I had an idea in prison called the poverty prevention program. And what this is in addition to everything else I've talked about, we offer every inmate when they come to prison, even the most violent ones, even the ones that are going to the 4-yard, doesn't matter. We offer every single one of them free tubal ligation and or vasectomy, depending on their gender. And there are only 2, by the way, just saying. On the gender assigned them at birth, you either get a vasectomy, I hate that term, or tubal ligation. That's the stupidest fucking thing. And in return for that, they get $5,000 tax-free cash put into their prison, onto their prison card, which they get upon release. $5,000. I'm telling you, they're all going to take that deal. They're all going to take that deal.
Absolutely.
And $5,000 doesn't sound a lot to a person who makes a normal income, but to these people, you might as well say $5 million. And we probably could get it done for $1,000, but let's, give them some. So for this $5,000, they submit the voluntary sterilization. Let's call it what it is. Now, I know how Nazi that sounds, but let's not forget the word voluntary. No one makes them. You don't want to do it? No pressure. Don't do it. Don't want a vasectomy? Don't get a vasectomy. Fine. You don't get the money, but that's fine too. You're afraid of needles. You don't want to go under the knife. Whatever. By the way, a vasectomy, I've had it done. You're home the same day. You just basically use frozen peas for a couple of weeks, which, believe me, it helped. But, well, I have 4 children. I didn't want 5, 6, and 7.
I think that's a pretty well thought out plan, though. But it's interesting, and you definitely will get called out. It is I mean, people would just get enraged by it just to be enraged by anything.
Oh,
but
they'll be
realistically,
enraged.
what you're
They'll get
what you're
enraged.
talking
And
about
they'll
is,
call it racist and all kinds of shit. But it's none of those things
but
because it's
it has nothing
voluntary.
to do with that. You're talking about
It does,
a
yeah, but you're talking
a
about logic.
disproportionate. Yeah, but you're talking about a disproportionate amount of the population that's going to be having a disproportionate amount of the children when they can't take care of those children. That's just what's happening right now.
Couldn't
Providing a
say it better
solution to
myself.
that is what
Yeah,
it
I
is.
mean,
Yep.
good people are having 1 and 2 children. These people are having 6 and 7 still because
And
they
they can't
take no
take care of them
responsibility.
properly.
Oh, by
Yep.
different baby mamas. And these baby mamas have children with 7 different last names, all of different races. I mean, it's just crazy. So to put an end to this, see, this comes down to what I got this idea because of something my mother taught me, and I'm sure her parents taught her, and I'm sure you've heard it, which is the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree.
Correct.
Okay, the apple
Correct.
doesn't fall too far from the tree. I used to, when I was a kid, I used to always wonder why, when I would go out with the girl for the first time, my mother would give me the first degree about what her parents did and where do they live and all this bullshit. And she used to always say, because the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. And I, of course, as a kid, thought bullshit and that. The longer I live, the more that's true. The
Correct.
child of an alcoholic becomes an alcoholic. I mean, it just there's so much nurture and nature. There's so much nature, and they're going to. So let's just prevent it from happening. Let's not get into the abortion debate or any of that kind of nonsense. This skirts
Sure.
all of that controversy. Let's just voluntarily sterilize and give them reward. Now, the out valve, and this is where I come to second chances. I have a second chance program. Now, for the very small percentage of these people who will ever even want to reverse it, will hardly ever, in real life, after the initial, it's crazy dies down, it'll suddenly seem brilliant. Okay, I'll tell you another reason this came to me in a minute, but I'll just get to that right as soon as I finish this last thought. And they hold the job with the same employer for 12 consecutive months, and they rent a place to live for 12 consecutive months from the same landlord. No evictions, no bullshit, no quitting their job every 30. They've been solid citizens for 12 months in a row. The government will pay to have this procedure reversed if they want it. And in vasectomies are virtually always reversible. Tubal ligations are almost always reversible. And if they aren't, for the small percentage, you're an adult, you made an adult choice. That's the way it goes. But for the vast majority of people, if they
it would be reversible in most cases, yeah. And the amount that would actually get to that point, it's not going to be too much of an expense on the state's part.
No, nothing compared to where this idea really came to me was in 1990, Rudy Giuliani and other big city mayors made their careers on the huge drop in crime that took place. And it was all credited, right. And it happened in the 1990s, and it was all credited to this broken windows theory, policing, and all this other bullshit. Well, that's all great, but that's not what did it. The real reason crime dropped in 1990 is it was 18 years to the day after Roe v. Wade. So many of these damaged children, at least initially, before the welfare rolls have been expanding exponentially, we had a dip in that birth rate for a while caused by abortion.
Okay? And it all kind of hit ahead in the 90s. Okay.
And so those 18-year-old kids that would have turned 18 in 1990, which is the danger age, that's when they really can turn violent and crazy, never happened.
What is it, between 15 and 21 or 15 and 23 generally? That's like the violent.
Typically. And most criminals stop committing crime usually about the time they reach 40, because then they're old enough to understand that their life has been a waste. I'm saying let's prepare them for that before they get there so they're productive.
Except for you, Herb, of course, right?
Well, no, but I'm a different story.
I'm totally kidding.
Yeah, but
I had to.
Listen, I know who I am and I know what I am, and it can sound arrogant, but I'm thinking about other people, not me at this point.
You also weren't a violent 19-year-old. Let's get that straight. You weren't a violent 19-year-old. There's a big difference.
Although I have to be honest, I thought about killing my stepfather. I did. It crossed my mind, but I decided.
Well, you'd mentioned how he was a poor influence on you. So I'm sure, especially if you don't mind me asking, when did he come into your life?
When I was 5 years old.
I was fortunate then. Yeah.
I was fortunate, believe it or not, in the abuse that I suffered, because I was old enough to know that I wasn't related to him. And so I never fell into the trap of blaming myself for what was happening to me. I always thought of him as this monster that my mother brought home. And it ruined my relationship with her because she knew what was going on and protected him, not me. And I won't even talk about the psychological damage I had to deal with from that. But prison, believe it or not, freed me from all that. But I can honestly tell you, when I was 18 years old, I graduated from high school when I was 16, and I went to college,
Okay.
and I got out of the house, and I joined the military, and one thing led to another. But I actively considered murder. I did. I thought of killing him, and he knew it. He knew it, and I was getting too big for him to beat or do whatever. And I had picked up a baseball bat and told him if he took one more step towards me, I was going to kill him, and he believed me. And but to get to that was a long time in between, and it was a lot more
I'm
than
sure the
just
build up,
meetings.
and I can only imagine the I'm not going to try to take a crystal ball to your life, but I can only imagine the abuse that had come in between that. You don't reach that stage without provocation, right?
There are three kinds of abuse: sexual, emotional, and physical. I got all three.
Yeah.
All three.
So when you're in that case, you can't when you're an
He
outside
was a
looking in,
monster.
you can't think about interjecting your thoughts on someone else. It just doesn't make any sense. You never went through that.
No,
Thank
no,
God I never
no,
went
no.
through that.
The guy was a
It,
monster, but in some ways it prepared me. It damaged me in some ways and benefited me in other ways, and that's what people fail to recognize. A lot of times, what doesn't kill you really does make you stronger. And one of the reasons, for example, as an older man, I could deal with prison is that I don't really experience fear like other people. People that go through what I went through and survive it tend to be, if not fearless, pretty close to it, because you've already been killed as a child. What else could happen? I mean, compared to what I've
yeah,
already been through, what the
yeah,
fuck else
your
could
soul. Yeah,
happen? Right.
right.
So that has served me well in many situations. When I needed to
Right.
confront a situation and another person might have been afraid, I wasn't. And that helped me out over my lifetime. Now, I've never had to be violent. Well, once in prison, I had to be violent, but very little,
I feel
because
like that's a requirement though. Like stepping aside, I feel like being in prison, you get forced into situations.
There
If
was
you don't
this
stand up for
skinhead.
yourself. Yeah.
This skinhead was really an anti-Semite prick, and he was just pushing me and pushing me and pushing me. So
Mm.
one day I just decided enough was enough of this bullshit. And I walked, as he was shaving in the mirror in the men's room. The mirror was actually a metal plate. We didn't have glass mirrors because you could turn those into shivs, right? Break them.
Because you could murder
Yeah.
someone pretty quickly.
I grabbed the back of his head and I smashed his face into the metal and broke his nose. And he bled like a pig, and he never fucked with me again. And that was the end of it. So, but that
Standing
was
up
my
to the
one
bullies.
that was, well, I might be
Yeah.
older, but I'm not a fucking pussy. I'm
Yeah.
not going to be
You
pushed
can't be
around.
though. But you can't
No.
be. You will get pushed around in prison. That's kind of what I was trying to say.
Oh
Is if
yeah.
you put up that front that he could continue to fuck with you, he more than likely would. He wasn't going to stop if you didn't interject.
And in a half a dozen other situations, I had to face people down during the course of that period of
Sure.
time. But as long as they see it in your eyes that you mean it, that's why, just digressing slightly, I think that we're foolish to stop bullying. For example, bullies perform a service to our children. It teaches them how to deal with the bullies they are going to inevitably run into during their lives.
Absolutely.
They're going to be
Especially
much,
when
much
you're an
worse.
adult. Yeah, when
Right.
you're an
And
adult, they get 10 times worse. Yeah.
look, the first thing you learn about a bully is, even if you lose the fight, hurt them, and then they'll never fuck with you again. That's all there is to it. That's what I taught my children. Yeah, hit the motherfucker. Well, what if I get beat up? Well, then you get beat up. But if you hurt him,
Yeah, but
he'll
he's
never
probably not
fuck
going to
with
come
you
back for
again.
you. Yeah, he'll
Right. He'll
find
go to
another
the he'll go
target.
to the one that'll run away every time. He's
Yeah.
not going to go after a hard target. Okay. Anyway, I digress. So that's prison reform. That's the idea for poverty prevention and second chance program.
That
Now,
was great though, because it tied right into your nuclear family. I mean, it's the markings of a good plan is it's intertwining as well, right? So they
it's
all bounce
all
off of each other. Yeah,
we want to prevent as much as we can, but we don't want to throw away the current generation, because there are people there worth saving. There are. I met
absolutely.
plenty of young men in prison who, but for the grace of God, would have been engineers, doctors, lawyers, plumbers, bricklayers. They just got born into the wrong family. That's
Right.
all. Instead of getting born, there's a YouTube channel I love called Outdoor Boys. And it's this father with his sons. This guy makes me feel, I used to think I was a great father until I saw this guy. And this guy, they live in Alaska, and he takes his kids out, and they do all kinds of survival, and they're little. I
Mhm.
mean, they go out and they build snow tents and the survive. I mean, this guy's amazing. He's like, but his kids are so, I hope they realize as they get older how fortunate they are. This
Oh,
guy
they
is,
will. Yeah, they will.
But a dad like, and he loves his wife. It's obvious, and blah blah blah. It's just if I, that if they had had the luck of being that guy's kid, they would have turned out great. It has nothing
Right.
to do with their genetics. It's where they are, and they can still be recovered. Some of them, and that's why I designed the
And
program.
that's a lot where that basic comes from. Yeah, absolutely. One question I did want to ask you, because it was one of the white papers. It wasn't really a long one per se, but I think it was the compulsory service.
Yeah, I was
paper.
about to get to that.
Okay, so let's get into that.
Okay, so my feeling is also that since 52% of children today of all races combined are born to single parent families, and this is not just crime, this is happiness. People are measurably, and Yale University did a very good study on this. It's absolutely true. And Yale's not a right-wing organization. People are the unhappiest they've ever been. And right. They don't even know why they're unhappy. And a lot of it has to do with growing up without any anchor. How many times have you seen a single mom plead with their kids to listen? Oh, come on, Bobby. Mommy needs you to. Yeah,
it's endless.
See, where a father would go, settle the fuck down, kid. And that would be the end of it. It doesn't mean that
a good father
draws boundaries. I can honestly say I've never laid a hand on one of my children, but they knew I wasn't fucking around. I had daddy voice. Right. I could do it with my voice. Sit the fuck down. That would be the end of it. Right. So I didn't say the fuck at home when they were little, by the way. This was when they were older that I would say sit
Sometimes
the fuck
they deserve it, Herb.
Well, this is nothing to do with anything, but it's just a funny story. So my youngest son's name is Julian, and he went to this little private school in Tucson called Armstrong Academy. And every day I would pick him up after school and drive him home. And I loved doing it. I would leave work, I'd go pick up Julian and Chloe, my little girl. He'd pick him up at Armstrong, drive him home, and do what I had to do. So one day he gets in the car, and how and he's like 6 years old. And he says to me, Daddy, what's the worst word? And I said, oh, Julian, that's the C word. And he said, what's the C word? And I said, I'm not going to tell you. I said, let me just tell you why it's the C word. I'm not going to tell you the word, Julian. It's not a word you ever have to use. But remember this. When you find out what the C word is, it's the one word you can't call back. You can call somebody a fucker and say, I was just kidding. But if you use the C word, especially to a girl, there's no taking it back. That's it.
You're done. Nope.
That's what makes it the worst word. Okay, it's ugly, but that's not it. It's that you can't call it back. Okay, so although nowadays people use it so much, it's not as true as it used to be. But this is back when people were still civil. Okay, so Julian was born in 1990, so this is probably 1996. Okay.
Yeah. So, you weren't going to get away with calling anybody that word, really. Yeah.
Yeah, back then. But now they throw it around on open public television, which is just one more sign of the degeneration of our society.
Yeah. Degeneracy. Yeah, absolutely.
It's postmodern. Postmodernism is just another word for degeneracy. So, and nihilism. So anyway, Julian, but you know how little kids are. I should have told him because, of course, this just obsessed him. So the next day he gets in the car and he goes, Daddy. And I said, what? He says, I know what the C word is. I mean, I knew he went and asked his friends. Someone was going to know what the C word was. He was
going to find out. Yep.
And that's when I told him, please, okay, you know it. You know the C word, but please remember what Daddy told you. Don't use it. And he doesn't use it to this day. It was just one of those funny things. I don't know why I brought up that story, but it's a cute story. Okay, so let's go to why I call for mandatory national service for every 18-year-old without exemption, without college deferment, without gender deferment, nothing. Every young person in America, upon graduating from high school, goes into national service, as they do in Israel and in Switzerland and in lots of other countries around the world. Russia does it. India does it. I mean, communist, non-communist, a lot of countries do it. They're going to go into national service immediately. Only the difference is it's not going to be all military. So they can choose where they want to go. If they want to go Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, that's fine. Or they can choose, call it the American Service Corps. That's what I would call it. It's really a reworked Peace Corps into a paramilitary organization. So instead of just going around and being loosey-goosey, everything about it is military, except they don't fight. They build houses, sewer systems, help poor people go around the world, all the things that will help them, by the way, form as adults. And you can get that either way. And they'll go through basic training, again, without guns. It's military. It has ranks just like the military. It has a hierarchy just like the military, because it works. The reason I keep going back to the military is that I know as a veteran firsthand that it works. It works, it works, it works. And we have a lot of practice on how to build people through the military. We're very good at it.
Absolutely.
Anyone who's ever served will tell you that we're very good at it. We fight too many wars, but the military itself is absolutely knows what it's doing and how to shape people. So we get all these
There's
kids
a reason that our politicians abuse it. It's a good one.
They go in and they get 2 years of discipline and following orders. And that lesson I talked about before, to be a good order giver, you've got to learn to be a good order taker and learn all those boundaries that they never learned from their absent fathers or their disinterested, too busy
Parents,
to be professional parents, or, they're both doctors and they know their kids' names, but the nanny takes care of them, all that. Okay. Right. And we don't give any deferments, no way to get out of it. Not like Vietnam, where all the rich kids got out of it and all the poor kids got killed. That's not going to happen. Okay. Everybody goes. If you're one of those kids like me who graduated at 16, you go at 17, okay, instead of 18. If or you're Doogie Howser MD and you're one of those child brilliant guys. What was it? The Good Doctor, and you graduate Harvard when you're 12. You're still going into the national service at 18.
You're going early.
You're going. I'm not going to push a 12-year-old in the national service, but when you're 18, you're going. Now, what that will do is. And in that, by the way, we should be unafraid to teach the American values, the Western values that built, and be proud of our culture. Stop running from it. Stop pretending like because we made colonial. First of all, we could have a long discussion on colonialism and why it was good and bad. It has. There's two sides to colonial. There's two sides that there's more
two
than
sides to everything. There's two sides.
There's more than two. These things are complicated. These easy answers are so foolish. Like, would Africa be better off without colonialism? I mean, before the colonializers came, no roads, no hospitals, no schools, no running water, no plumbing, no modern medicine, very short lifespans, very high infant mortality. I mean, all of that was brought by the colonizers. Now, did they take other things? Fucking A, they did. I didn't say it was all good. I'm saying that life is so much more complicated than we teach in school. So back to national service, we should unashamedly do what we used to do in school, the Pledge of Allegiance every day.
Absolutely.
Okay. Singing the national anthem together. Okay. There's nothing wrong with fostering a little patriotism, as long as it doesn't cross into exceptionalism. And that's the danger. This is the last thing I'm going to bring up, okay, is American exceptionalism. We have fallen to the trap. We believe that we're exceptional. A lot of Americans think America is exceptional.
Right.
And because we're exceptional, and you alluded to it earlier, so I'm just going to bring it up now at the end. We have a moral, if you play the game the way that it should be playing, we have a moral superiority. Well, the minute that you believe it, the minute that you believe that about yourself, that you are in a morally superior position, believe me, every progressive I've ever met believes that they're in a morally superior position.
Right. And then how are you going to act upon that superiority? Yes, it becomes the question automatically. Yep.
What's happened is our military industrial complex has basically said to the world, we are morally superior, and if you don't follow our morally superior way of doing things, we're going to come and bring you democracy, which means we're going to fuck up your country because we haven't successfully brought it to anybody. Okay, but we're going to come bring it to you, and when we bring it to you, we're going to wreck everything.
Yep, and that's one of the fears, absolutely.
We've got to get out of the
obviously
idea.
It's not in your plan, but just America,
Western culture is what we should be proud of, and America, as the leader of the reason America, by the way, became the leader of Western culture is because of we were puritanical. I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is the very last digression. I promise.
I'm enjoying it, Herb. Don't you worry.
I know I digress. The people who came to Plymouth Rock, we all learned in school they came for religious freedom. That's what I learned when I was in school. They came for religious freedom.
Yes, that's of course, that's the first thing you're going to learn. Yeah.
Okay, but the connotation of that is it was to have life, more free. And it was exactly the opposite. The Puritans were the Roundheads that had been defeated.
They wanted to have their structured society, structured the way that they wanted it. Yep. They didn't want it in any way, shape, or form underneath the king. Correct. Yep.
but they wanted a theocracy. The first colonies were a theocracy. It was all about the church. It was later that we developed separation and everything else. But those values, those conservative values, served us well.
Absolutely.
Okay, it had its bad parts. I'm not for dunking people in streams to see if they're witches or any of that kind of bullshit. But I'm telling you,
No, I thought that might be you, Herb.
no, that's not me. But that's what makes America exceptional. That we truly were moral. We truly were trying hard. We're the only country in history that ever fought a war to free another people of any race. Mm-hmm. Okay, we're the only ones. I mean, again, that's a different way of looking. 600,000 white kids died to free slaves.
Yep.
I don't know what we have to apologize for. I'm
with you, but you're going to make they make an argument from a standpoint of well, why did you oppress these people in the first place? And they're unwilling to look back on the history of oppression in general, unwilling to look at slavery as an organization that's existed forever. Yeah,
that would be like saying I'm entitled to reparations from Germany because I'm Jewish. But I didn't go through.
Right. It's the same. It's the same thing. You could say, the Barbary slave trade was one of the most fascinating things I've ever read about. Right. So you can make arguments all along the whole coast of Italy. They should have reparations if they want them. Right.
And once you get into reparations, I mean, just think of how difficult it would be.
Throw it in the trash. Throw it in the trash anytime I hear it. I can't.
10% of the Black population in this country are African and Caribbean immigrants who don't even want it. I mean, they weren't.
How many of them are not descendant of slaves too? It's a very high percentage, if I'm not mistaken.
First of all, what's black? Most Black people in this country are biracial.
Biracial too. Yep.
I mean, Barack Obama is biracial. He's not black. He's half white and half black. He's biracial. I don't know how he got designated black. His mother's white. His father's Kenyan. Surprise, he's biracial. Alicia Keys, Jewish mother, black father. She's biracial. She's not black. All this So do we give like percentages? Do we have to determine, like the Nazis did, what percentage of black you are to how much?
That's when you're getting into a sort of science that has no bearing.
Right. Do we have to trace your roots back to see if you really are the descendant of slaves and not just a Jamaican or a Bahamian that emigrated decades before that you didn't know about? Or come on, let it go. Time to move on. We're not going to. Anyway, I've had this discussion many times. But anyway.
Well, there's a logical conclusion, and then you can get very, very heartstringy about it. And then I believe if you are a member of a minority race or group of people in America nowadays, if you decide to, you have an ability to play a card that nobody else has.
Martin Luther King had it right.
It's all about your
content of your character.
Yes.
Why we identify by how much melatonin's in our skin and not the content of our character, as Martin Luther King so correctly, I'm sure that he is whirling in his grave over what's become of his civil rights movement. He wasn't about what's happened at all. The race hustlers took over. God rest his soul.
Right.
There's a truly great man, and you could pick him apart out of context. That's the problem. I mean, I've heard that he was a womanizer and plagiarist.
You can find his faults, and you can go through anything you want. Yep.
The guy was a dead man walking, and he knew it. Okay, that's all you need to know. The guy was out there in his early 30s, leading a mass movement, was enormously talented. Yeah, he fooled around on his wife. Okay, come on. I mean, he was a dead man walking. Begrudged the guy a little something. We all knew. I mean, I knew even as a kid that it was just a matter of time. They'd killed Kennedy. They had killed Bobby Kennedy. I knew Martin was going down. It was almost like you were walking on pins and needles. It was just a matter of time. Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, when Malcolm X was killed, I was zero shocked. What a surprise. Right. I mean, but these men knew it and still did what they did. Okay. In Malcolm X's case, he had a change of heart. He retracted all of his earlier shit. He began reaching out to the white population and was killed for it. Right. But he knew what he was doing. That's what makes him great. So we have to get away from what our pigmentation is and start talking about what our character is. And the entire 1964 plan is designed to rebuild the national character. And that starts with the nuclear family. That starts with understanding that not every fence is put up to hold you back. Most fences are put up to protect you. And before you go kicking them over, you need to ask yourself long and hard. We need to develop really a Taoist. I mean, the Tao says, and I know this is getting really esoteric, but the Tao says that it's better to do nothing than to be busy doing nothing. Okay, so basically that translates into 99 out of 100 times when faced with a problem, the best thing you should do is nothing, and it will work itself out naturally without unintended consequences. And this is where we fall down all the time. We send people to Washington to do a job when we really should be sending them to pass a budget and come home. It should be a part-time job. They shouldn't be getting involved in how to solve all of our problems. Those are our problems. They're innumerable. We will never run out of them. But if people know that they have to figure it out for themselves, they will. And if the government isn't overtaxing their income because they're trying to do things they can't do, and if we aren't fighting foreign wars that have been an unending stream of disaster since World War II, we haven't had a really good, remotely successful war, maybe Korean War, sort of. But after that, it's been a string of disaster, one after another, one after another.
Absolutely.
Got to snap out of it. Got to stop spending money we don't have. Got to stop destroying what was good in our society. Got to build it back. And none of it's going to happen now, but it's going to happen soon. Everything I proposed, the cynic or the skeptic would say it'll never happen. And to which I say, you're right, not today, but when the crash comes, and it's coming, it's really here. It's going to be ugly. When that happens, the radical becomes reasonable when the shit hits the fan, and the shit's hitting the fan. And so what I'm trying to do is put out an alternative. So that's the last thing I want to say. Everyone should go to 1964plan.org. Donate if you can. Volunteer if you can. We're looking for both. We want to organize. We want to get around the country. That's what the money's for, so that I can travel around, speak to groups, share the plan, marshal support, so that when the shit hits the fan, there's another philosophy out there besides the same old shit, or more dangerously, simple answers to complex questions, which is how demagogues do it. Dangerous people present, this is how Hitler did it, this is how Mussolini did it, this is how they all do it.
A 3-year-old level of knowledge. Yep.
They put forth a simple solution to a complex problem. And they never, the truth is, most problems don't need to be solved they're just part of life. Just let them go. Let it go. When you come to a fork in the road, which one do I take? You don't have to decide. Just do what you think is right. Keep moving on. It'll work itself out. It will. And I cannot tell you how many people I've given that advice, and over the years have come back and said, you're really right. If I don't react, it's all the complications that come. You do this, it causes that. And, I never realized that was going to happen. Well, no shit. When they passed the Great Society, when they passed the war on poverty, I am 100% certain that LBJ meant to cure poverty. I am positive. Okay, I've read his private writings, I've read his papers, I've listened to the phone recordings, I've read Doris Kearns Goodwin, I understand his history, I admire him in many ways. He absolutely meant well, but the law of unintended consequences.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Paved with good intentions. Lyndon Johnson wasn't evil. By some measures, he was the best president in American history. If you view it by the sheer amount of legislation he passed, he dwarfs everybody. There's nobody even close to Lyndon Johnson. He passed more bills in his first 3 months than Kennedy did in 3 years. And they were all well-intentioned, but they've turned out badly. And this is why, what should we do about the next thing that comes up? The next problem that comes up, what we should do about it is nothing. It's like the climate, just to use another issue, where we really don't need the government to do a fucking thing. There are 3 things that we could do about climate change, assuming that it's real. Let's just assume for a moment that it's real. We can try to prevent it, we can try to mitigate it, or we can try to develop technologies to take care of it. We're spending all of our money on prevention. It's the one that can't work. That's the one that can't work.
Right.
As compared to what? What has humanity ever prevented? Ever? Okay, the answer is nothing. So let's just stop it. We're not going to do it. There's too many people, too many governments, too many agendas, too many poor people who would like to have their lives better, that only fossil fuels can do at the present time in the state of the technology, et cetera, et cetera.
Correct.
Okay. However, we're not, as the water, let's say that they're right and the water levels start rising, and no one's going to stand there while it runs up their knees.
Right.
Humanity knows, we know how to build dikes. The Netherlands would be underwater. but for dikes. And they did that 400 years ago. We know how to mitigate the sea. We know how to mitigate heat. Okay. It's called air conditioning. Okay. And by the way, 10 times as many people die of cold as heat.
I was just going to mention,
it's true.
Let's look at what if it was opposite? What if we have global cooling? How much worse it would be?
The amount of climate deaths are less than 1% of what they were 100 years ago. So despite all of this gloom and doom shit, it's gotten nothing but better. So people will mitigate automatically. Like in Miami Beach, which is where I was born, today they put in huge pumps to deal with the tides, which are getting a little high. So when they get a spring tide, it's not all the time, but when they get a spring tide, which is, when I was a kid, when we would get a spring tide, it would come up over the seawall and come up over your back lawn if you were on a canal, which we were. Okay. But it never got to the house. Now it could get to the house. So what they've done, because there has been some sea level rise. Now, I happen to think it's probably mostly we're at the end of the Pleistocene Ice Age, and we're still in the Pleistocene Ice Age. And, this is just one of those things. And, but for those people that don't want to discuss what that is and just don't want to have a discussion about it, it doesn't really matter, does it? Whether it's Pleistocene Ice Age or global warming, the water's coming up. So what has Miami Beach done? They put in those huge pumps like New Orleans has, and they pump it up, and they don't have a problem. People don't sit on their hands. They do something about it, okay? And that's a legitimate role of government and private industry to work together to do stuff like that. That's
absolutely
fine.
To invest, to try to prop up engineers and bright minds. Absolutely.
One of the things the government can do is invest in things that aren't economic at this moment and experiment with them, because they don't need to make a profit necessarily from every experiment, which is why most of our research is government funded. But what happens now is that a good example on climate change, nobody is writing any papers with even a shred of common sense among that community, because they couldn't get a grant if they did. If they wrote up a grant proposal saying that I'm going to prove that significantly the factors of climate change are the rotation of the Earth, solar radiation, and the end of the Pleistocene Ice Age, which is probably true, okay, as much or more than man-made contribution, they would never get the grant. They would have no career. They would be crushed. They would be ruined. They would be canceled.
Correct. Because they're not calling out the proper agitators.
Right. Which is why the government, I'm not against government funding research, but it has to be blind.
I was going to say they have to keep their hands out of it. They could fund it, but they can't try to direct where the fund or where the result is going to go.
Exactly. And, and technology, I'm just going to tell you right now, we're going to invent our way out of it. That's what's going to happen. That's what we always do. And with the power of computing and art, oh my God, nuclear fusion is a reality. We've accomplished it.
Yes. This is the way of the future, and
it's unlimited energy with no byproduct but a rock. A nuclear fusion, the spent nuclear fuel is nothing but a dead rock. That's what you get at the end. No nuclear waste, no having to house it, no nothing. That's the future. That's what's coming. And that'll take care of everything. Be patient. Even if you believe this shit, you're going to be dead when the worst of it happens. So just believe that your children and your next children, they're not going to stand.
We're going to figure it out. We're not just going to sit on our hands. Yep.
And stop trying to force people into buying what they don't want or bribing them to buy shit they don't want.
Absolutely.
Stop it. Anyway, I could go on. We live it.
That people. Hey, we've gone quite a bit. If you have not, I would very much recommend anybody to go read the white papers of the 1964 plan, because you're going to get a little bit more of a nuanced view on some of Herb's particular views on certain aspects, and he'll be able to dive in a little bit deeper in those white papers, specifically about things like the nuclear family, things about prison reform coming from someone who was there. Other than that, Herb, was there anything that I'm getting itchy to do a little bit of a bonus talk with you, get to some stuff that I think we've been hiding a little bit.
Go ahead.
I'll save that for the bonus show, but was there anything else you wanted to tell everybody that's all the broad audience? This is YouTube, this is Spotify, this is everybody.
Please go to 1964plan.org. By the way, if you'd like me to come speak to your group, all I ask for is to cover my cost of transportation and lodging. I don't look to be paid a fee. So if you have a group that you'd like me to come out and speak to, I'll come. I'll be happy to. I don't care if it's 550 or 500. It makes no difference to me. All I ask is that my coach airfare and, I don't care if I have to eat at McDonald's and stay at Holiday Inn, it's fine with me. I mean, after prison, I could sleep in a tent. But as long as, by the way, I do sleep in a tent all the time. In fact, I just got a new tent today. As a matter of fact, it's sitting here right behind me. I love to camp. But all kidding aside, that's all I ask. I'm not looking, this is not a money-making a thing for me. Okay. I just want to spread the word because I know what's coming. I know it as sure as God made little green apples, and we've got to get ahead of the curve on this as fast as we possibly
Absolutely.
can.
Absolutely. Well,
That's it.
everybody, Herb K, you've been really wonderful, and I can't thank you enough, Herb. And I think we'll have to have you back on. Maybe I'll look for an opportunity when things are looking a little shaky. See if we can get you on the phone.
You don't have long to wait. You don't have long to wait. So I wouldn't be surprised to see the shit hit the fan. There is a strong possibility, not probability, that it'll hit the 29th of this month.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I could go into
Heard
the
it
reasons why.
We're getting into it. We're getting into it. Everybody, if you want to hear a little bit more from Herb, we're going to start a bonus show. We're going to go into some things that I think don't really necessarily belong on YouTube if I want to stay alive as a channel. So we'll keep it that way. Go meet us over at wethepatriotsmedia.com to go check that out, and we will get right into it. Thanks, Herb.
Peace out.
Damn, I wish I were the fucking state. I wanna be something, not nothing. Trapped inside my dream and I'm running away from these demons. But the feeling's so good, I'ma keep dreaming.